He was fired from his own company. The company he started in a garage turned its back on him. Most people, they'd call it quits, but not Steve Jobs. He came back and changed the world. Not once, twice. This isn't just a story about Apple. This is a story about vision, about belief, about mindset. So let's rewind. Let's go back to where it all began. Let's explore the life of Steve Jobs and what it really means to be like Steve Jobs. He was born on February 24th, 1955. Not into comfort, not into wealth, but into uncertainty. His biological parents gave him up. He was adopted by a working-class couple in California, Paul and Clara Jobs. Paul was a mechanic, not a businessman, but it was in his father's small garage, helping him tinker with engines and electronics, that Steve first learned the magic of building, seeing how tiny parts could create something big, something real. From the start, Steve was different. He didn't follow rules, he questioned them. He wasn't disrespectful, just curious, always asking why, always wanting more. He once said, "I would spend days reading about things I didn't even need to know, just to understand how the world works." School, it couldn't hold him. He was smart, but wild, a square peg in a round hole. Eventually, he made it to Reed College, but after one semester, he dropped out. Why? Because he didn't want his parents spending their life savings on something he didn't love. But that doesn't mean he stopped learning. He dropped out, not away. He still sat in on classes, slept on friends' floors, collected Coke bottles for spare change, walked 7 miles every Sunday just for a hot meal at the Hare Krishna temple. And one of the classes he dropped into was calligraphy, just beautiful letters and spacing on paper. Pointless? Maybe, but it would later shape the design and soul of the Macintosh. That's the thing about Jobs. He collected dots, not knowing how they'd connect, but somehow they always did. In 1974, Steve traveled to India, searching for meaning, for silence, for something bigger. He came back quieter, thinner, more focused, and he was ready. 1976, in a little garage in Los Altos, California, with his friend Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs started building something. Not just a product, not just a company, a revolution. Wozniak was the technical wizard. Jobs, he was the visionary. He didn't just want computers for labs or engineers. He wanted them for everyone. What if, he thought, a computer could sit on your desk? What if an artist or a teenager could use it? The Apple I was born. No screen, no case, just a motherboard. Jobs sold his van. Wozniak sold his HP calculator, just to buy the parts. That's how Apple started. Not with millions, not with investors, with hustle, with heart, and a garage full of guts. Then came the Apple II, one of the first mass-market computers, color, sleek design. Suddenly, computers weren't just tools, they were personal. Steve was just 23 when he became a millionaire. By 25, he was worth over $100 million, but he didn't even own a couch. Because money wasn't the goal, impact was. And then came the next dream, the Macintosh, a computer with soul, with fonts, a mouse, a graphical interface. It wasn't cold or confusing. It was beautiful. In 1984, Steve launched it with a Super Bowl ad that shook the world. The crowd roared. The future had arrived. But behind the scenes, the company was shifting. Steve's passion became pressure. His intensity clashed with the board. He was young, he was bold, he was too much for them. So in 1985, they fired him. The founder, gone. Can you imagine that? But instead of breaking down, he started again. He built a new company, Next, and bought a small animation studio from George Lucas, a company nobody believed in. It was called Pixar. And guess what? He turned that studio into a storytelling powerhouse. In 1995, Toy Story hit the screens, the first full-length computer-animated film. And once again, Steve Jobs didn't just create a product, he reshaped an industry. Meanwhile, Apple was in trouble. Confused products, lost vision, falling stock. So in 1997, they brought him back. The same man they once rejected, now their only hope. And Steve, he didn't come back angry. He came back brilliant. He simplified everything, cut the noise, brought back the soul. First came the iMac, colorful, fun, friendly. It didn't just work. It made you want to create. Then came the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Then iTunes, then the MacBook. And in 2007, Steve walked on stage with a black turtleneck and a fire in his eyes. He held up a sleek little device and said, "An iPod, a phone, an internet communicator. These are not three separate devices. This is one device, and we are calling it the iPhone." That moment changed everything. He didn't just launch a phone. He launched the smartphone era. It wasn't just a product, it was a revolution. It changed how we live, how we talk, how we work, how we think. It turned Apple into the most valuable company in the world. And it turned the mobile phone into a gateway to the future. Suddenly, the world was in your pocket. Maps, music, movies, the web, in your hand, on your terms. And Steve Jobs, he didn't just create a device, he created an ecosystem, a world of apps, developers, innovation, all orbiting around one vision. Apple stores became temples of technology. Launch days became cultural events. And Steve, he was at the center of it all. Obsessive, demanding, brilliant, relentlessly focused on the details. And still, he created. Still, he believed. In 2010, people said tablets would never work. He introduced the iPad. And once again, they were wrong. It wasn't just a tablet. It was a canvas for artists, for students, for dreamers. It changed the way we read, learn, design, and consume media. Hospitals began using them. Schools integrated them. Grandparents, kids, CEOs, everyone found a use for it. And Apple, it wasn't just a company anymore. It was a cultural force. In 2011, Apple became the most valuable company in the world, surpassing ExxonMobil, the oil giant. Think about that. A company started in a garage, now more powerful than the world's biggest energy empire. And Steve, even as his body grew weaker, his mind was sharper than ever. He led meetings, reviewed designs, made plans for products that wouldn't launch for years. Because that's who he was, a builder, a thinker, a force. On October 5th, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. He was just 56. But his legacy, still alive. In every pocket, in every swipe, in every idea that dares to be different. Steve Jobs wasn't perfect. He wasn't always kind, but he was relentless, visionary, fearless. Here's to the crazy ones, he once said, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, because the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Your 5 rules to be like Steve Jobs. Rule number 1. Follow your curiosity, not the system he dropped out. But he never stopped learning. He followed calligraphy, design, beauty, things that seem random until they weren't. You can't connect the dots looking forward, only looking backward. Rule number 2. Believe in your vision, even if no one else does. He didn't wait for permission. He built what he believed the world needed, before it even knew it. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. Rule number 3. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Famous last words of his Stanford speech. No matter how big he got, he stayed curious, obsessed, restless. Comfort wasn't the goal. Impact was. Rule number 4. Simplicity is power. He took complex technology and made it feel like magic. Simple can be harder than complex, but it's worth it. Rule number 5. Make a dent in the universe. Steve didn't just build products, he built tools of empowerment, and he chased purpose, not applause. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, what's the point? You don't need to be Steve Jobs, but if you want to build something real, if you want to change even a piece of this world, then be bold, be curious, be relentless, be like Steve Jobs.